All right. Welcome everybody to what I think is class 5. Is that right? Anybody remember? I think it is.
Class 5.
Yeah, class 5 of tonalism. And it's kind of funny. I was realizing that the last 2 weeks I want us to work on big, kind of more finalized projects and counting backwards, going, okay, I want to teach this, I want to teach this, I want to teach this. And so today is going to be, unfortunately, a bit of a whirlwind because I've got 3 elements I want to bring in today. So this is going to be a jam-packed class. We're going to be talking about value keys, which I always like to compare to the keys on a piano and say high key, mid key, and low key. So again, if you're thinking about a piano, the high key would be the high notes, the tinkly, high notes. The mid would be if you're playing right in the middle of the piano, and the low would be kind of the more bass-filled low notes on the, is that the right side of the piano? I think so. Anybody here play piano? I don't actually play piano, so come on, Karen, help me out. I see you.
It's on the left side.
The left side is the low notes?
Yeah,
Okay.
Left is low and high is on right.
Okay. Great. And how we think about that in values is kind of, hopefully it makes sense, with the high notes being the lighter values and the low notes being the dark values and the mids being the in-betweens, the grays or, kind of mid grays. Let's go back. I just pinned it here. Then I want to talk about also color keys, or the high chroma, meaning purer colors, versus low chroma, meaning more grayed down or into the browns, more muted colors. I also would like to introduce the idea of painting with a mother color, which is one of the greatest shortcuts we have when doing tonalist work. So I will talk about all of that. And you guys, today is a very interactive class. So feel free to speak up and talk a lot and share your thoughts and ideas, because as we're looking at the references of the artists I selected, I definitely want your input, because I want you guys to tell me what we're seeing, if it's high key, low key, high chroma, low chroma, and if you think they used more of a mother color or not. A mother color is basically mixing up one big pile of color that almost all of the colors in your painting will touch. So they all become very related, and it's a super great way to bring harmony into your painting. Harmony meaning that everything feels related and connected, and they are, because they're all in the same family. They all share the same mother. Does that make sense? So it's a really great way to, just make everybody happy and connected within your painting. So that might be something you want to experiment with. The homework this week is, I want you guys to get outside and take some photos. If you're in Oregon, it is glorious outside. I mean, you can see how awash in my studio is in light, and that's with the blinds pulled down. It is bright and sunny, and the leaves are still mostly on the trees. I mean, my backyard doesn't think that, it's covered in leaves, but it is beautiful. And fall is a great season for getting tonalism references. The end of summer and fall really lean themselves towards tonalism. I guess so could the winter if you're doing gray tonalist paintings. Spring is definitely more of a colorist's delight. Spring and early summer, where you get the just bright splashes of color, the bright, early leafing out greens are just so vibrant. So it's definitely a great opportunity to get out, think about your final project. Again, we're going to have 2 weeks. You can paint something a little bit larger. So homework 1, get some nice photos. You don't have to paint exactly what you photograph. We can change and manipulate, and you maybe don't even use any of those photos, but I want you to get out, get inspired, And I think today and tomorrow are supposed to be decent weather in Oregon. So that's what I'll be doing. As soon as class is over, I'll be jumping in the car and driving out towards the rural area here, the farms and the vineyards, which are just luckily only 10 minutes away from me. And, you know, stopping traffic and taking photos and seeing what I see. The other homework is to paint either a high key, a mid key, or a low key painting. And that is up to you. If you want to do all three, if you want to do them in black and white, here is my example from the last class. So did everybody see the little key chart that I handed out or I sent out in the Facebook and on the email? So here's our examples. I'm in reverse, so I'll have to think a little bit strangely here. This is a full key painting. You can see it's got dark darks and light lights and everything in between. So that is, if I was playing a song on the piano, I'm using all of the keys, right? It's got the high notes, the low notes, everything in between. Here, oh, again in reverse, is a mid-tone painting. Nothing is as dark as you can see below it. The dark, sorry, being in reverse is really strange. The dark darks underneath, nothing is as dark as that. And you can see the lights of the white of the paper, and nothing is as white as that. Mid-value paintings or mid-key paintings are often kind of on the somber and quiet side versus the excitement and energy that comes with a full value key painting. A high key painting over here, this is really a trick for my brain to see myself and point at the with the wrong hand. High key painting is more airy and light. It feels, literally feels lighter, like it would weigh less if you were to hold the painting. They can be very meditational and quiet and soft. I do enjoy doing high key paint or high key paintings. And then we've got low key, which, you know, not the god of mischief, but low key, K-E-Y, is often lends itself more towards nocturnes or super early morning before the sun has, you know, come up, and definitely has a heavier feel, but can also still be quiet and relaxing just because it doesn't have the punch of all the keys. So if anybody would like to do something like this, this is just a piece of paper. It's oil painting paper, but I just taped it off into 4 quadrants. This is what I did in the last class. And maybe what I'll do is even post a link to this video if anybody would like to watch that. I know a number of you guys were in there. Go ahead, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Oh, bye, Kate. So anyways, if anybody would like to do this, this is not necessary. I don't want to make, especially for repeating students, have to do this over again, but I know Michelle, you really liked doing this. Susan, you really learned a lot from this exercise. So if this is something you'd like to do, and if this is the only thing you have time for, this is a great exercise and this can be your homework completely. So I'll let you guys decide. I want to focus on high key, low key, mid key, and which however you want to interpret that as your homework in this week's assignment. All right. And if you want to incorporate the idea of, you could do this with a mother color instead of black and white, you could do them with, you know, browns, reds, blues, oranges, whatever colors you wanted. So anyways, there's that. And you can also see how it relates to what we did last week with the 4 values based in the landscape painting and how that still reads in here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pop over to our Facebook page so we can talk about your guys' beautiful paintings here. And everybody's clear on homework? Great. All righty. Everybody sees our Facebook page here, correct? Great. All right, looks like you guys turned in a lot of work, so really nice. I just quickly threw in my painting because two reasons. I'm happy that it finally got moving and progressed, because this painting sat behind me kind of stuck for a while. And it's interesting when a painting isn't progressing. And it's usually I just kind of am dumbfounded, or I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what the next step was. And what I did was I basically just started over on top of it. I went back in and I reestablished my value structure. And that's all I needed to get moving again. I had just lost the underlying value structure. Everything was too much towards the mid tones, and it was flat and kind of boring. And I was trying to work my way out of it with using only color, and it wasn't enough. So then I stopped again. And then when I stepped back, finally a week or two later. And so that's how I work with a lot of my paintings. I've got piles of paintings going on at any given time, usually smaller. This is 4 feet tall by 3 feet wide, so it's pretty big. But by reestablishing my darks and getting, my darks, are the darkest darks are here, and then they progressively get lighter as they recede back into space. All of a sudden I was keyed back in. I knew what the painting wanted, and then I was able to come across and lay in colors, and had a lot of fun with actually dappling and almost using some kind of more impressionistic. Sorry about all the glare on this painting. It's pretty wet still. I was able to use almost an impressionistic style of painting, where I was putting colors, broken colors, side by side. I wasn't always blending really well. And so hopefully by keeping those values close together, but letting the colors be a little bit separate, it creates sense of interest. Just like back in here, you see the pinks and the greens. If you squint your eyes, their values are really close. So I'm letting the color do the work, which is kind of what Monet and a lot of the Impressionists did. So that, anyways, I had a lot of fun. And then as I worked my way towards the foreground, I actually did grab my little signature brush, my liner brush, and actually just kind of finished it off with a couple little elements of detail, just to add in kind of a gentle delicateness that hopefully separates it from the big, bulky, kind of heavy-handed, thick brush.
Really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I will go ahead and sit with it a little more. I'm contemplating bringing more yellows and golds across the top, but I'm not positive, because I actually really like these. I told you guys that some of my favorite colors are kind of those 1950s, 1960s avocados and grayed down pinks. And so I got to do some of that in this painting. So it was a lot of fun. All righty. Let's just go to, you guys mind if I just kind of quickly go down here? I know Kate just had to leave, but let's just kind of, this was based on the 4 value structure for landscape painting. And Kate has done a nice job here of creating some strong contrasted values. She's definitely got dark darks, light lights, nice mids. Here's one thing that I do notice is these are the darkest darks. So tendency is dark colors, dark values, oftentimes want to come forward. And they also, when you have a strong contrast between the darks and the lights, this becomes the focal point, right? Our eye will skim across, but it keeps wanting to kind of jump back to here. So unfortunately, Kate isn't here. She, going and helping her family, I think watching grandkids. So I can't ask her if this was intentional or not, if that is the focal point. But I would almost mute these colors or these values down, bring them closer to this, maybe just a little darker because they're a little closer than these. And then I would probably bring in the darks possibly into some of these shadow areas to bring them forward. Also, warmer colors want to come forward. And if we look at the bottom half of this painting, it's all very cool, right? So it's not really wanting to read as much in perspective and depth as it could. But Kate, if she were here, could tell me, but that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be the focal point. And there's a lot of artists that will go ahead and use the values and mute them to say, you know, this is interesting, but not as interesting. I want you up here. So unfortunately, Kate can't answer those for us. But does that make sense? Do you guys see how our eye just really is attracted to the big dark shape? And this is really interesting. She's got a lot of fun shapes, interesting movement and things. And I would like to celebrate this area more versus my eye just skimming past it constantly. So yeah, if it were my painting personally, again, there's no right or wrong answer. All I can do is give you guys ideas and feedback. I would probably play up these. I think if she had some warm darks in here and maybe even warmed up the tops of these cool minty grasses, that this would come forward and then this would recede back into space. And then as far as just design, it does appear that this, I think, is a creek, and it appears to be going uphill. So doesn't it look like there's a bit of a rise in the land here? And so that's just a matter of line and directional line. So those are the things that I would mention to Kate if Kate were here. And unfortunately, Kate cannot defend herself. So
How would you resolve to make it not look like it's going uphill?
well, it's flat here. And then it goes back up. So if she had this line continuing through here and getting bigger, then it would feel like the creek kind of goes back and meanders up. And then it would also getting smaller would help. See how it's sideways here, horizontal? Those feel like they're on flat ground. This feels like an angle, and just by how it's designed, feels like it's going up a hill. Maybe Kate would say, but Mike, that's a path. And that would be okay, because it could be a path going up a hill, but then also she has little bits of what I perceive to be water. So there's just a couple issues here. Great painting, lots. I mean, it almost feels like two paintings to me, which is a trap I get into a lot. That's one of my wife's favorite feedbacks for me, is that the top and the bottom feel like two separate paintings. And it happens like that because we'll focus in on an area and then we'll get down here and focus in on this area, and they're not. So it's always nice if you can kind of build up your painting together at one time. All right, Leslie, are you here today? I can't see everybody, so.
Yes, I'm here.
Let me see if I can expand this so I can see everybody. There you are, Leslie. Great. All right. Nice watercolor. Beautiful. So, yeah, somebody's got a piano going in the background there.
I'll turn it off. It's my husband.
Oh, okay. Yeah, turn your husband off. Just kidding. Yeah, very nice. Let's talk about this. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing, what your thoughts were, and what you enjoyed or didn't enjoy as much about this.
Well, I was painting along with you as you were doing this painting. And what I was trying to do is make sure we had a curve in the river that went back that was believable. And then I was trying to make the right side a little lighter or high key value as opposed to the left side.
Okay,
and then I was
great.
trying to make sure the color from the sky came into the water so that it was reflective. And then the tree is there to sort of stabilize the painting. And then the mountain just emerged. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be there, but it came out. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to try to make it disappear because I wanted it to stay soft. And so I was also trying to make those two trees in the back on the left, you know, focal points darker so you could tell I was trying to follow the value pattern that when it's vertical, you make it dark.
Perfect.
So
yeah.
that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, you got a lot of it. You nailed a lot of this. If I squint my eyes, your values read pretty well. You've got your lights, your darks. It's kind of in the mid areas where, you know, it could be a little simplified, but I know that you were painting along with me, like you said. And I appreciate that you do that, but it's got to be difficult because if you're painting with me with watercolors and I'm painting with oils or acrylics, you'll see that I constantly am changing my mind and going back and, oh, let's lighten these or do this and that. And that's impossible.
Well,
Almost the watercolors are tough.
it isn't, I do paint in reverse, where you put in your darks first. I put in my lights first. And if you're putting your darks in and I'm not sure where the lights are going to be, I just try to leave things open till I can see where the lights should be. Because in watercolor, you put your lights in and then you darken over the top of them. So it's an agile sort of attempt to keep up with you, but I really enjoy it. And I'm liking the shapes and the compositions that we're working on.
Great. Yeah. Nice job. I mean, it really does read well. Yeah, this would be kind of my comments would be the same thing I would kind of tell Kate is these are just as dark as your darkest darks. And so they're kind of wanting to come forward a little bit more, I think. And then this really dark line here is a little bit of a tough read. And just because it's the same width and size as here, so it doesn't feel like it recedes in space. This line would probably get a little thinner. And then these would
that's
probably
helpful. Yeah, I can see that. Thank you.
yeah, nice job though. Really, I so appreciate that you're painting along, and I just can't even imagine what sort of a challenge that is because I just know how jumpy I am and how I'm like, oh, never mind, that's too dark, let's lighten it. Oh, that's too big, let's make it smaller. And since you're using a slightly less forgiving medium, I always have watercolors argue with me. It's very forgiving, but from my experience with watercolor.
You can't, it's very hard to go over, say, any real darks with watercolor. Once they're there, they're there,
Right,
and yes, you can gray them out, but it's much harder to do. So, but I love it. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun and learning a lot.
I'm having a lot of fun watching you, your paintings and everything and seeing what you're doing here. Great. And Diane, I saw Diane, didn't I? There you are, Diane. All right, great. Very nice colors. Wow. These are there's such a nice harmony to this color palette that you've got. Everything slightly kind of got a grayed down, slightly muted. I really
Thank you.
like that. All right, Diane, can you tell us a little bit about your experience doing this exercise?
Well, I painted along with you. This is a 4x8 or 6x12 panel.
Nice.
And it's on wood, but it's just sort of on the top. So anyway, it was really pallid and weak. And then I guess a couple days ago, I thought I need to bolster it up a little bit. So I did. I can see a few things. I'm not sure why the tree on the right is so brown and the other ones aren't. So I didn't really notice that before, but anyway, it was really a fun thing to do.
Yeah. I don't mind the color shifts, and the red tree, it's still got the nice darks. And like I said, warm colors do tend to want to come forward a little bit. That doesn't actually bother me. I think that color plays so nicely off the greens and stuff. And it's not like this tree and these trees have to be the same types of trees, right? This could be a nice big overgrown bush with some more piney type trees in the background here. So that doesn't bother me much until,
Okay.
I wouldn't even have noticed it until you pointed it out there. I think you did a great job of doing the exercise with your lightest lights, second value, third, and fourth. So nice job doing the exercise. And isn't it fun just to see how by kind of simplifying in that way, all of a sudden it just reads as a landscape. It's just kind of a, I don't like to say trick or anything, but it's kind of a shorthand that our brain uses to read landscapes. And it's kind of a nice thing to be aware of so that you can use it and, ignore it when you need to. So very nice on that. Just as far as a little bit of a feedback on just the artisticness of it, these really straight lines here and here can totally work, but it feels like a channel, like a man-made channel versus an organic structure. And it can totally be that. That's not a problem at all. But if you just wanted it to be a little more organic by just kind of breaking this line, making it not so regular, that would be a little bit helpful there. But yeah, my hat's off to your colors. I wish my painting had these beautiful colors in it. I really like them. Yeah,
I think
anything else
the
I
grass
can?
could use a little more, it's a little dead looking, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, you could definitely bring in, and yeah, I feel like it's this bank doesn't feel as related to the grass. I know what it is. It's the sides of the grasses facing us versus the tops of those very same grasses. And it feels kind of like two separate things, like this dark shape
Right.
feels kind of separate, almost like a wall or something else, versus, just these grasses in shadow.
Yep.
Great.
Okay.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right, Yvonne, I'm glad you were able to make it. You got your computer to behave a little bit. And there you go.
Well, the computer cuts in and out, so I don't know how much I will be with you.
Okay, so it looks like you chose one of my references. Very nice. And I really want to applaud you for taking this. I mean, this picture for me has got some interesting components with the directional lines and the interesting colors, the contrast between these warms and the cools in the sky and the darks and the lights. So there's interesting things going on here, but it's always been a tricky image. Like this is very centered. The barn is probably a focal point, but it's way back there, different things. So anyways, when I saw your painting, way to solve for it. You just kind of cropped it and just made it about this area, the kind of the most interesting area, right? I mean, I do love these cast shadows, but that's not that great. These are pretty stupid and repetitive. So, when in doubt, take it out, right? If it's not helping, it's hurting. And so you just kind of zoomed into the part that you thought was interesting. And then, of course, you went ahead and changed the foreground to make that much more interesting. If I look at this as far as our assignment and the lightest lights and the darkest darks, you did a really nice job. The golden grasses, almost feel like some of our lightest lights, but that works in this case because that's the setting sun is hitting these are face lit, and the grass is getting hit pretty strong. I don't remember, I'm not sure if it was Leslie that was asking about what if the sky is darker. And this does look like a slightly moodier, almost cloudier sky versus this, but I am not, that works for me. So yeah, tell me a little bit about this, your process and what your thoughts were on this, please, Yvonne.
Well, I loved your photograph. It had such a George Ennis feel about it. And so I wanted to play with that. The actual colors in the painting were a little more mellow than in the photograph. But after I put the pattern in the foreground, I realized that the sky kind of needs some pattern too in order to balance it. The painting, George Ennis often divided his canvases in half horizontally, and I wanted to play with that idea because it creates such a strong harmony, or at least it can. But I need to do something with the sky. I think the sky needs to be warmer and have some pattern in it.
Yvonne, what colors did you use in the sky and in that reflection in the foreground? I can't quite tell because I'm wondering if my colors are off. It looks very gray, but is there a blue in there? And if there is a blue, what blue did you use?
I used ultramarine blue. A little, I'm not sure what I used. I mixed a lot of different colors in it. I was aiming for more of a putty color, but I got blue instead. but there's
you say
ultramarine.
putty color?
Crimson, pardon?
Did you say putty, like Putty color?
Yeah, something just a warm gray was what
Okay.
I was aiming.
Mm.
I did not get it.
Well, I mean, it does work that way towards kind of the bottom, and then it goes up towards a cooler and a little more dense over here, a little more airy over here. So it works. It does just feel kind of like a cloud bank, but not a super, super heavy one, just kind of a, yeah.
I like the contrast in the between the gray sky and the trees. And you know, Michael, you've talked about, is it a landscape? Is the focus on the land or on the sky? And in this case, it's the land. And if she puts too much more detail or variety in the sky, then it might compete. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, and one of my first comments was going to be that it's a 50-50 split of land and sky, but it doesn't feel like it when you look at it first. It actually takes you a little bit to actually realize that that's happening. And I, like you said, George Ennis and a number of really great painters do that, but they're very aware and skilled. And I think this actually works in your favor. I'm kind of trying to imagine it, you know, if I held my hand up and crop the sky a little more. Let's see if I zoom in and can move it. It doesn't give me much. You know, I can crop off a little bit off the top. It still works, but it doesn't bother me that it's the 50-50. I was actually going to kind of say that you did a great job of that, because just like Michelle mentioned, this is definitely a landscape. The sky is secondary, and it's because you have so much interesting things going on. You got nice shapes, you've got motion, you've got lights and darks, and then of course we've got the payoff of this red barn in the back that's really getting blasted by the light. Really nice. And your brush
Almost
interesting as well.
it almost reads, it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't read as a half and half composition, because Yvonne did such a great job. Like the colors in the foreground and the colors in the trees, it's sort of like that mother color concept, right? Like where,
Right.
because the lower 2/3 of the painting are all sort of tied together, they read as a 2/3 block to me, instead of you know, a cut and a half at the horizon line.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, having those trees coming up and overlapping in such a profound and beautiful way over the cool sky. Yeah, it really, the trees do become part of the landscape, and that's, you know, as they should. So yeah, uh-oh, we just lost Yvonne. She's got some computer issues going on. She sent me an email saying that she would have some issues. So anyways, yeah, great job. This is one of my favorite parts about classroom setting, is that we all get to learn from each other and just see, you know, I learned a lot just by like, oh, what could I have done in this foreground to make that interesting and stuff like that. All right, here is Kate's black and white. So yeah, it looks like she very intentionally put her darkest darks here. So unfortunately, Kate, if you're watching this video and you want to come back and respond in here, just let us know which parts were intentional, which parts, you do have nice darks here in this, but they go away when you colorized it. Let's pop back over. Michelle, look what you did. Is this your one from last year?
Oh, that's just a mention that I was looking forward to. That's not what I painted this week, but yeah, I was just saying that was one of the best exercises I've ever done, and it helps me. I never saw things. It demonstrated to me what you could do with the value and keeping it within those ranges. Man, that made all the difference. I mean, it's such a good lesson.
It's really lovely. Like, I mean, each one of these is a different poem. It's like you went out different seasons, different times of day, and you wrote a little poem about the same pond, you know, or the same little setting. It's like a nice little bench that you will enjoy visiting throughout the year, even though, you know, all the trees are all spindly and, you know, you can tell it's all based on the same photo, but it's so great to see how the values, how important they are, the value structure, and then the values you choose to use. Well, that's a good line. The values you choose to use. How important that is. I mean, how different the top two are is immense, right?
And when we did it with acrylic, I just took you know, what was going to be according to your little chart of the grayscale, you know, this is going to be my lightest light, this is going to be my darkest dark, and then did the underpainting, you know, with that. And it was such a fun challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Let me clarify that really quickly. Here it is. So I know that I sent this out and hopefully you guys got a chance to review it, but I just want to quickly go over it so we're all on the same page. So full value range, this is only a 9 value scale. I typically use a 10 value scale. But you know, the full value range, it's obvious, right? It goes from white to dark with all the values in between. Again, the light keys on the piano all the way to the heavier bass. Anybody, again, a piano player can tell me the actual verbiage I should be using there. But I think it makes sense. And then the low key range is just the heavier, darker colors. You can make an entire painting with just this. You know, you don't need the first 4 values, a high key range, and then the mid value range. So you're just doing a painting that exists in the high key range, or you're doing a painting that just exists in the mid value range. I will tell you that mid value range, there's we're going to see a number of them that are just beautiful, beautiful paintings that people really get a hold of. But I do want to warn you, or just let you know, that oftentimes when I'm asked to go critique or like judge a painting competition or go out with plein air painting with beginners, a lot of painters exist in this space in the beginning. And it's an interesting, I don't know if they just feel safer or if all the colors kind of get muddied up a little bit and kind of end up in the mid value range. So just to let you know that a lot of times, especially if you're out plein air painting, where that extreme sunlight is hitting your canvas and everything looks lighter than it is in your painting because of that sunlight, you'll get it home and you'll bring it indoors into your, you know, incandescent lights, and you will see, oh, all my, what I thought was really light and bright and airy out there is actually a lot darker than I thought. And then also, yeah, so a lot of beginning plein air painters, and it happens to me too, like, and I'm just aware of that. I'll just bring it into the studio and lighten up areas and darken areas. So we always have that if you want to paint with more of a full range. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page like that while we're talking about this example. Great. So for those of you who haven't done this, who weren't with me last year, or even for those of you who would like to do it again, I do suggest it can be very simplistic. It can be these look kind of nice and complicated. Michelle kind of went above and beyond a little bit. And they can even be abstracts if you wanted. Actually, you could just literally mix up your 10 value, or, you know, a bunch of values in black and white or whatever, using your mother color, and just put them down. The high key, low key, mid key, full value range. Very nice. Susan, what's going on?
Okay.
Nobody commented on this sky. That is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I didn't have a lot of time, but I spent about 3 days. It's oil, and I wouldn't say it's finished because I usually build it up over a period of time. I painted. I saw your video again. Thank you for sending it, and then I painted with you. Yeah, I do like the sky, but I had. I think, but I may be wrong, Michael. Please tell me. I squinted so much that I can't open my eyes. I don't really see the 4 values.
Yeah, you do not have the 4 values.
I know. I kept doing it and lightening the middle ground there.
Right. And the truth is, I think I mentioned this last week, that I actually don't worry about the values of my mountains as much.
Oh, okay.
Because I find with, you know, especially living in the Pacific Northwest,
right.
we have so much varying atmosphere. So I worry more about my sky, my lightest lights, my secondary, the area that's receiving the most light, and then my darks. And
Well-
I try to keep those three distinct values. And then my hills kind of, I just use either observation or kind of what works, which values work here, because these hills could be, covered in fog way back there. They could be really crisp and clear sometimes. I doubt in the early morning they would be. So where this is falling apart to me, Susan, a little bit as
Okay.
far as your values are concerned, is that your ground plane, and it's very shiny and glary, so it's probably even brighter than it really is. But I think if we just kind of darken this up a touch, if we squint at it, oh, don't squint, your eyes are going to get stuck. Right here between the grass and the water here, it's pretty darn close. So I think if you could even glaze into this with some nice color over the top, and it will darken it a touch, and it won't have this kind of boring gray. It's a very muted
boring.
mid-value gray. Yeah, that's a boring.
So Michael, what color glaze would you recommend see, because what would you recommend to put over that so it won't be boring? What color?
Well, that's up to you. Would kind of a cooler gold, because it's the sun's right. You haven't actually put your sun in. I think my sun is peeking out
Okay.
in mine. So yours is going to be really quite muted. And I think if we were using this as an exercise for
That's
this,
what I did.
it would be on the mid to low value range, meaning you got your darks, but you don't have anything that's really bright. Again, what I'll do is just, I don't have anything white on here, but if we quickly just skimmed our eye from all the way to the right side and the white of the screen on, just bring our eye back and forth really quickly, you can see that you have a lot of value range that you could play with. But happy accident or purposeful accident, not accident, purposeful, your sky is gorgeous. And I would actually,
Thank you.
I usually don't tell people to protect anything in their painting, that everything should be willing to change. But I really I literally want to steal this color combination of these beautiful purpley grays to this gray green that's so nice, right next to these gray peachy colors. I love this area.
Well, thank
So
you.
in this instance, I would defend it.
Okay. I try to, frankly speaking, I'd set up my palette like yours because I was watching the video as I painted this. And then I did really check to make sure that I had the sky kind of reflecting down on the ground level, but I don't know if you perceive that.
A little bit. I can see your kind of pinky or purpley or
I
colors.
tried to put pink going down to the bottom. It just kept eating itself up.
Sure.
If this was, if I was pursuing this, I'd be probably painting another 5 times on it.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to suggest that you do that. Paint over. We're going to paint over parts of these trees. We're going to paint over the grass, and you're also going to have to bring some of this down into here. Your water's reading is, again, it could be partly due to the glare and everything else. You can see your kitchen lights right here just reflecting ever so strongly. You're going to want to bring some of those. I wouldn't worry as much about the light hitting the ground as I would about the reflection into the water. And then because you do not have your sun rising up, and I wouldn't add it now because again, I like what you've got going on here. I wouldn't worry about copying my example. I would worry about you finishing this beautiful painting. And
nice.
So what you're going to want to do is you can, because the sun is not actually hitting this, you can come over and you can make this grass quite a lot darker because it's early morning. It's before the sun has actually popped up. I see, yeah, Karen covering the bottom, and it's like I said earlier, it's like 2 paintings.
Oh
A little
God.
bit your top and your bottom.
Yeah,
And then so have fun, figure out what colors play nicely. Figure out, is this going to be hung in my dining room, my living room, or my bathroom? What color would go nicely with this sky? It could be some golds, it could be some greens, it could be even gray purples because it can be really quite cold. The other thing is, Susan, is this tree is right on the exact same horizon line as these trees back here, which makes a weird optical illusion.
Okay.
It makes it look like these are the world's biggest bushes or trees and these are little tiny guys because they're on the same horizon line.
True.
And so they want to be in the same space. So by simply bringing the base of this tree down, it will come forward and make sense and be overlapping these versus on the same line as them. So it's really important to see how this tree is so low and it tells us it's much closer. And then these grasses are here. But yeah, I can kind of tell that the paint just got smudgy and soft there.
I had
You
it
just kind of
down.
lost your base.
I frankly had it down, then I brought it up because I wanted it to recede, but everything you are saying is so helpful and I appreciate it. I know the values don't read well, even if I didn't have kitchen lights. But bottom line is the values to me do not read well. It almost is like two values, the trees and the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I learned so much and I'm very appreciative that you critiqued it violently. I love that.
Good. So yeah, it's definitely worth saving and they're all easy saves.
Okay. Well,
And if not, just cut it in half and save your sky.
Michael, well, it is such a pretty day. And when I walk, I'll take pictures in Oregon.
There you go. Good. Richard.
Thank you.
Not here. My pleasure. Thank you, Susan. Richard is not here. He says, I did an acrylic 3-value study for the homework this week from a photo I took in Fort Collins, Colorado. All right. More Colorado people here, at least from his trip to Colorado. Pretty nice here, Richard. Hopefully you get a chance to watch this video. The thing is this area of dark here is very similar to the areas of dark here. So if you're wanting this to recede into space, you definitely have some value range that you can play with by lightening this and by darkening into the shadows here and here will help that recede into space. Because if we just squint our eyes and think of this as an abstract painting, not as a landscape, all of these values want to touch and relate to each other, and it's flattening itself out. So it's basically a 2-value, 3-value painting, but we can play that up. You also can get a lot lighter in your sky if you wanted to, Richard, to open up your values a little more. All right, let's see if I can mute Susan. There we go. That'd be funny just here arguing. Anyways, you have a lot of range here, Richard. Still, you can get darker on your darks and lighter on your lights. I don't know exactly. I don't know if you posted the reference or exactly what you're looking for in this. But if you wanted to open it up and present more depth and more space in this painting, that is what I would do. Lighten this band, maybe lighten my sky. You can lighten a little bit in the water and darken up the shadows as they come forward. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, look at this. Richard, very nice. And I wish you were here with us right now, Richard, because this is very much what we're talking about today. This is the high chroma, lots of color, mid-value range. You don't really have anything super, super dark, and you definitely don't have anything super, super light. So a nice mid-value. Your values are reading much better in this than they were in your little gray value painting. Just because you don't have any really dark darks back here. So it is letting it fall back into space. Whereas these darks, this dark over here, are coming forward. You could probably even dark in a little bit into this the part of the tree if you wanted to. You don't have to. It keeps it nice and spindly and light. Nicely done, Richard. Great job. Again, I would think of this as kind of a mid-value painting if you're equating it to what we're doing this week. Versus, well, this is still kind of a mid to high, isn't it? Here, he doesn't have anything really dark, and playing up this time, you've got the warms and the cools, and whereas in the last one, everything was fairly warm. So I really appreciate your experimenting and pushing those ideas in this. Nice variety in brushwork and shapes, and even in value or in edge quality, where you got these really soft kind of airy edges back here versus crisper, stronger edges that want to come forward. So It's working really well. So I love seeing both of those together. It's really nice. Isn't that fun to see how differently those read from each other? I love experimentation and playing with those kind of ideas. Michelle, how you doing? Are you
I'm
here?
doing good.
There you are. Great. This is such a nice feel. It's interesting because everything is soft, but that works. And in fact, a lot of the reference, some of the examples today we're going to look at from other artists do that. So there's times when I just love this, and doesn't it lean in towards more of an abstracted landscape when you do that? It kind of has a nice feel. It can definitely fill a space and almost be kind of just more about colors and some big shapes, and really nice. Now I ask you, is that intentional? Were you going to come back in and sharpen things up, or did you just kind of go, you know what, that's nice, I'm going to leave it alone? I shouldn't have led the witness like that, but let's hear what you got to say.
Well, so I'm probably going to leave it, but I intentionally did the green trees from the red trees, but now I see it's kind of divided in the middle vertically a little bit. I kept going over and wiping away and going over and wiping away because I was frustrated with I would accidentally do something and I'm a little like, oh, my biggest question is where the water meets the land on the left. It's vague to me how to sort of clarify that. And I was trying to think of the values, a little bit of the land, a little bit more mid-tone there on the left. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm just gonna, it's a little boring maybe but I kind of like it also.
Yeah, no, I think if you told me this, what I got into, whether it's happy accidents or whatever else, because I'm really enjoying looking at more and more abstracted landscapes. I've talked about David Sharp and Bato and a couple other artists that I really like. And there's definitely a market for these kind of soft and airy, almost just color field / landscapes. And I think I did grab a couple to use as examples. So I love this. I mean, it's a beautiful painting as it is. It's a beautiful piece of art. But, as your instructor, of course, I have to go, what was your intention as well? Or what would you like to do with this? So, if you told me like, this wasn't exactly where I was going, but it got to a nice, happy place. And I stopped, I'd be like, yeah, put a frame on this. It'll be beautiful. It really is a nice painting. And your sky is really subtle and nice up there. That is, hats off to you on that one. And just a little bit of a reflection and everything. So as far as if you wanted to take this further, as opposed to maybe stopping on this one and doing it again, or, just moving on to the next assignment. Because again, if it was accidental and stuff, I think you could easily say a lot of nice happy accidents, and it does make a nice piece. But if you did want to, just like I was talking about with my own big painting that I showed you at the very beginning of class, I kind of lost the plot a little bit by losing my value structure in the ground planes. So what I would do probably is analyze the reference or make up, but you want to probably decide what is the structure underlying this. And oftentimes that is my shadows that give me my structure. It's my darks that give me my structure. And then I can build up from there. So when things become too wishy-washy and too airy and I kind of lose, I'm floating away, right? The painting is kind of floating away. So we want to re-ground it and re-find our structure. And then by doing that, you'll have some nice darks in here. And again, you guys, I really apologize that I don't have Photoshop. I can't pull these in and kind of show you a little better what I'm talking about. But if you simply came in and added some nice, strong structural darks where you wanted them, and then came back in and brought your mids or lights on top of that, you'll find all of a sudden that everything kind of just feels cemented and less airy, less like it's floating away, and more determined. So yeah, we're thinking
Thank
about
you.
what is the intention of it. So yeah, this is a tough spot. And I probably have like 5 paintings in my studio where I'm kind of like, well, it's nice now, but it's not what I was going for. Or, it's nice now, but is it as good as it could be? And for me, I'm always willing to kill my paintings. I'm always willing to, there's definitely a lot of paintings where I'm like, yep, I should have stopped. That would have been much better. So whatever you want to do here, there's no wrong answer, Michelle. If you literally just wanted to, I like it a lot. I think it's really got a nice, and if you are looking through the master tonalist paintings throughout history and stuff, there's a lot of them that have these painters. Whistler had a lot of really soft edged paintings like this that are just, they're celebrated. They're not only just nice paintings, but they're celebrated American paintings. So good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Well, what do you think you're going to do?
I will probably, for now, leave it and go on to the next assignment.
Good choice. All right. I want to do maybe 1 or 2 more. I do not want to make anybody feel, oh, good. I think this is it. Okay, good. Anita, are you here today? Yep, there you are. Great. How you doing? Very interesting take on this idea where you just kind of straightened the creek out and made it very much into like a channel or a canal or something, and it just shoots back. I mean, that works. Like, that's actually kind of a good solution for that awkward angle that was there. It does possibly stay a little bit wide. You could maybe get it a little thinner as it recedes into space if you wanted to. But I just feel like it's kind of all of a sudden just running into that that tree line, and it makes the tree line feel like either anyways, I think if you just change this angle slightly so that it kind of is a little sharper, it would feel like it recedes into space just a little better. And nice job too, like you gave an angle to this foreground bank versus just taking it sideways like I did. Mine feels very flat because my darks across the middle are quite horizontal, where you gave it a nice angle. Yours has a better sense of motion and movement than mine does. And so it's kind of fun to see how people are resolving these different issues. All right, tell me a little bit about your experience with this.
Well, I painted along with you on the recording, and I changed those lines about 50 times. I could not get what I wanted as far as the lines around the pond. And then the hills changed colors several times, and the trees right in front of them, they were either too dark or too light. So I really struggled with that. But I liked the sky came out with more texture and stuff than my usual ones. So I like that part. But
I would say it's quite successful as far as getting your values, breaking it down into the 4. So if I was judging it on my expectations or wants from the homework, it's a success. I think you definitely did what I asked and learned, I hope, by doing it. And yes, there's some strangely overcomplicating things in my reference, this tree sitting in the water, these weird overly dark grasses in the foreground, and how I simplified it when I was painting it by making these darks and these darks just about the same value. It does kind of blow out some of the illusion of depth, but I was trying to keep it within the idea of the assignment. So all in all, great job. I actually like how you resolved some of this. Your sky really does. I mean, like these patches where you have this soft transitions are really nice. I think this area feels a little unresolved, like you kind of like this yellow feels not as light as it could be. You could actually come back in and add another coat of lighter yellow, cleaner yellow, because it's getting green. And that happens when we're painting wet into wet, as we all know. Painting yellow up next to blue when you want your yellow to be bright gets tough. I always like to torture students when we do still life paintings and make them paint lemons and bananas in strong light and shadow, and then watch everything turn green on them, and there's like, oh, yep, nope, I guess you're painting limes. So it's a difficult thing to do when you have colors that aren't doing the effect. So what I would do is I would create a transition of more of a pink, where the blue meets the yellow is kind of a pink or an orange or whatever else. And that'll give you a transition and a space for that connection to be made.
Okay.
Yeah, all in all, quite nice. Your grasses get a little bit become like just marks. They're not
Yeah.
really very expressive, and they're just, I can tell that when you're painting them, you're just kind of grass, as opposed to looking into the shapes and maybe bringing in some color. And again, not your fault, bad reference, and an unfinished example by me. So all in all, quite nice. Do you feel like that exercise made sense though, as far as doing the 4 values and
Oh,
getting
yeah.
everything
Yeah,
lined in?
it was good. It was a good learning experience, but yeah.
Great. Would you guys, I want to go to our media and discuss, well, right here, these guys. And wow, I have 47 of them. We will not be discussing 47 examples of value keys, but I do want to kind of quickly flow through these. Would you guys like to take a little 5-minute break, or would you like to just keep going? First one that talks decides.
I'd like more coffee.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely use more coffee too. All right, 5-minute break. Let's get back here at, well, yeah, 10:07. All right. People start rolling back in. Yeah, nice job, Susan. I can't hear you, Susan. Unfortunately, I muted you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
I thought all of a sudden I could hear you the whole time, but the screen just went, I mean, there's no picture. So I went back into the email and tried to click on the Zoom link, and I don't have a cursor I see, it just doesn't open up to where you were.
So you can't see the screen anymore?
No, it's really weird. I hear you perfectly well. And
I think what you may want to do is actually sign off and then sign back on completely.
I don't know if I launch meeting. I've tried that a couple of times. I won't.
Yeah, you don't
take
want to
the-
do a launch meeting. You want to do leave meeting.
I can't, there's no spot to even do it. That's okay. You just go ahead. I don't want to interrupt your class. My husband will be here in a sec to help me. Well, needless to say, I don't want to interrupt any class time, but I've enjoyed so much every second of these lessons. I've learned so much, and I want to thank you for that.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
can't-
I always enjoy our time together. It's a
Yeah,
good group. You guys are.
isn't it a good group? Wonderful
Yeah.
people. I just can't seem to, I've gone out and gone back into the email. I can't figure out what happened. It's just like I hear you, but I don't have, the link won't open up. When I click on launch meeting, allow, then nothing happens. I'm on
Yeah.
a MacBook Air. So I don't know. I've never had this with any of your classes, and I've had about 3 or 4 of them.
Don't do launch. Just sit and wait. And after that, it'll say join.
Can't get that. Is that Renita?
Yeah.
Hi, Renita.
Hi.
Good to see you. Doesn't even say launch. It's okay. Don't let me interrupt the class. Craig will help me. He's computer literate. I'm not.
Okay. Okay.
Please
Well,
go ahead. I'm so sorry.
all right. Well, we will, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stop share real quick.
Oh, wait a minute. I just saw, it's bizarre, a flash of the people on the right, but then it's gone again.
All right. Let me,
No, just go ahead. Don't let me impede upon this class.
right,
Okay,
gonna
I'm
go ahead and
downloading.
Stop the recording. So this one will be in 3 parts. So.
Okay, so look what happened, Craig. I just saw downloading, allow.
Actually, no. All right.
I can't get it to, well, okay.
All
I can't turn
right.
the sound off, so I don't talk. I don't want to interrupt his class.
There we go. I'm going to go ahead and mute you. There you go. Great. Feel free to talk, Susan. We can't hear you. All right. Well, I see Susan talking, but I muted you, Susan, so you're gonna have to unmute if you want to tell us that you're successful now. All right, great. Well, welcome back. Hopefully everybody's got a nice cup of warm coffee. And now let's talk about, I'm going to go ahead and share screen and take us over to some examples of artists that I very much respect or are great examples of what we're talking about today with the value keys. So everybody sees this beautiful Brent Cotton painting. Just a quick nod. Great. All right.
We're
so
recording?
I believe so. Yes, I hope so.
It looks like you are. I see the little, in my screen, there's a small rectangle in the upper left that shows REC and it's flashing red. So
All
I think
Let's
you're okay.
assume. Let's assume. All right. Great. All right. Hopefully I can. There we go. Everybody sees Facebook again. Brent Cotton's painting here. Brent Cotton is a Montana painter. Guy I've got to meet a couple times. He and my sister used to be neighbors. And he's a great painter. He loves painting fly fishermen in his scenes. They're always very atmospheric. And yeah, so I want to look through them quickly and think about, are they high key, low key, mid key, or a combination thereof? And oftentimes they will be kind of a mid key to dark, or, you know, mid key to low key, or a high key to mid key. So they're not, you know, always just one of the three. They can oftentimes be two. So I will go ahead and give the answer on this one. I believe that this is a mid key, even though this sun feels very bright and everything. If we were to turn this into black and white, the light would actually be quite dark. And again, just letting my eyes skim to the bright white over to the right of it and back again, we can see he's also got the nice soft edges and the quality. And then look how he's using the darks in the foreground. And as they get lighter, as things go back, this figure's, you know, important and interesting because he's framed around here, but he's definitely not nearly as dark as these foreground shadows, right? And then the shadows in the big giant cottonwood trees back here get even lighter compared to him. So to make this the focal point, he's kind of surrounded this lone figure, even though it's not the darkest dark. All right, so I'm saying that this one is a mid key to low key dark. All right. Charles Warren Eaton, one of my heroes. I just love looking at Charles Warren Eaton's paintings. I've got a book or two of his. I love how he simplifies, and he has kind of a impressionistic meets tonalist painting style. Really like it. And I just think there's a nice poetry to his use of line and things. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to put you guys on the spot. So Linda, are you ready? All right, unmute yourself, Linda. What do you think we got here? High key, mid key, or low key?
I think mid key.
You think mid key?
Because of the mid key, because of the background and the water.
Okay, what about all the darks? Does that also go into low key?
I love, it could be low key. It
Yeah,
could
I
be low
wish-
key instead of mid key.
If I had, yeah, I think it's going to be more on the low key. You know, he does have some brights like the moon or sun or whatever it is reflecting,
Yeah.
but let's go towards kind of the general rule being, what is it, about 90 to, you know, 95% of the painting. And I would say, I wish we had Photoshop so I could put that black and white, you know, value key up next to it. If any of you guys have it printed up, you can hold it up next to your screen and see. But I would say this is probably low key, maybe getting into mid key in some of the lighter areas. There you go. I see a couple of you guys pulling out your value key. There you go. Nice job, Diane. Nice job, Karen. So anyways, yeah, I think you're not wrong that there's definitely elements of the mid key, but I think predominantly this is a low key painting. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to let you.
I see that.
Okay, so this one, Linda, I'm going to keep going with you. This one, where do you think we are here? This is a little tougher. This is a lot tougher.
Yeah.
Low key.
I think it's a combination. Were you speaking to me?
Yep, Linda, I'm keeping you going here.
Okay. So I think this is high key to mid key.
I think you're pretty much right, with definitely elements of low key. So I was going to say this one, if I were to guess, would probably be about a full range, the full key. And I didn't even give you that as an option. So that was a trick question. So,
Okay.
and then the other reason I chose this painting, not only because I love Douglas Fryer's work, I love, he's just does the right amount of detail, not too much, not too everything. But what I wanted to bring this one in is as an example of high chroma versus low chroma. And this is definitely a low chroma painting. There's no real pure colors, right? Even the little bits of purple are very muted and very grayed down. So you've got a low chroma, but I would say a probably full value key on here.
I think everything has a little bit of purple in it.
Does feel like
Almost.
that, doesn't it? Even the browns kind of lean towards kind of a purpley
Yeah.
brown. Yeah, very much almost monochromatic. He's definitely, this painting is using the idea of values a lot more. if you guys want to see an exceptional monochromatic value-based painter, I would look at an artist named Charlie Hunter. Awesome painter, awesome guy, awesome artist. But he does almost all sepia-based paintings. All right, another Douglas Fryer. And again, I think this one's pretty much a full key. You know, it doesn't have darks in here, but it is a low chroma. Again, Douglas Fryer will incorporate greens and purples and reds, but they're always fairly low chroma, meaning that they're desaturated and they're kind of lean towards the grays or the browns quite a bit. So I just wanted to show that as an example. Most of these are going to be about high key, low key, mid key, full value range. But I did grab these Douglas Fryers. I didn't realize they were going to pop up at the beginning of my little pop-up quiz here. All right, Diane, do I get to harass you for a second here?
Did you
All
say
right. Diane, what do you think here? Do you think high key, mid key, low key, or full value range?
Well, I think it's high key, but maybe just leaning a little towards the mid value range.
Yeah, I would think that's pretty right. He does have a couple darks in here, but they're really, the painting is not about that. That's just kind of supporting his idea of depth. But I would say you're right. I would say it's mid to low or mid to high key. Probably right. And I love the use. I don't know very much of Sam Vokey's work, but I really liked the harmony in this painting of everything is basically related to blue.
Right.
For the most part, you know, blue leaning towards green, blue leaning towards purple. And then he does have a little splash of the kind of pinks in there to kind of give us a little bit of a reward and not make it too redundant. But you know, if I was to mix up a mother color of this, it would probably be in the blues. And then I could take those blues towards my greens and I could take those blues towards my purples. So you see how that kind of works, how everything feels like it's in the same world. It's all in the same environment and all existing under the same light conditions and weather conditions. Very nice. Aha, Edward Seago. This is actually probably one of my favorite paintings, believe it or not. Kind of simplistic and stuff, but this is kind of one of those paintings that when I discovered it, changed me. It changed my appreciation for what could be done with very little. This is, for me, just the epitome of a poetic little painting, little landscape painting. You know, and people can definitely argue that it is quite boring and, you know, not much to it, but boy, do I want to make something like this or make multiple pieces like this. And that is me leaning in towards the poetic side of nature and the poetic side of painting.
I think, is he an English artist? I think I have a book on his work.
He is an English painter. Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What's his name?
Edward.
What's his name?
Seago, yeah, I've got the names up here on the right. So when you go back and look, you can
Okay.
look that it's
Okay.
Seago. Literally sea go. He wants to go to the sea. Yeah, and just
What, Michael?
okay. Yeah.
What, Susie here. What about the horizon line, since that's one of my things I'm working on? It's so vague. What would you say about that? Because that is hard to identify.
Sure, but what does it tell you is happening back there?
There's a reflection and it's a overcast day.
Yeah, it's very hazy, right? It's very soft. So yeah, he's losing his edge quality, but I think it's very purposeful. And also, this kind of becomes our focal point because it's, you know, a crisp, sharper edge, and darker compared to this very soft, lost edge behind it. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, but yeah, it's absolutely, to me, it just reads as a very foggy morning, or I'm guessing morning, that he's gone out and either painted this or observed. And yeah, and then also look at the warms and the darks here, how they want to come forward. There's little bits of warms in here. I'm guessing that he had a warm underpainting. You know, All right, Susan, since you're unmuted, what do you think? High key, low key, mid key, full value?
I think it's a high key. I'm just, here's my chart.
All right, I think you should
No, wait.
look at your chart.
It's a mid-value range, no?
Yeah, because nothing in here is bright. There's
Yeah, because I'm
nothing
looking
light.
at your chart.
Yeah, he's left out probably if value 1 is white, he's probably left out 1, 2, and possibly 3 on the value chart if I were to look at it.
Yeah.
And he's also, yeah, it's very much in the mid because even his darks, there's no black. Again, if we let our eyes skim from the black outline of the frame here to in there, very little darks.
Of course, and then you don't know the real painting. If you saw the real painting, it might be even different, more intense.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm looking at your chart, mid-value range. Thank you for the chart.
All right, well, Susan, keep your chart up. One more question for you.
Okay. Ta-da.
What do you think here?
Are you talking to me again?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so that one, I think, but I may be wrong. Is that a high key range? Yikes. Michelle, help me. You're good at this.
I would say high key. I would say you're right.
Okay, yay.
Just leaning in towards mid key. And you almost know it because when I go back, let's just go back and forth real quick. Go from here to here. I almost can feel my eyes dilating.
Yes, I see
Like
that
my
now.
hand.
Absolutely.
Right. And look at this. Check this out. England, dreary old England.
Yeah, or Oregon.
Australia. This is an Australian painter. So, I mean, it just feels like that, right?
Yeah.
It does.
Dreary England, sunny, baked Australia. Emil Carson, not one of my favorite paintings of his, but I grabbed it. He really is great with trees, and he does definitely paint a lot of high key paintings. He was not afraid. I probably would worry that this guy eventually went blind by painting out in these bright days and looking at his white canvas. I have no idea. I don't know anything about him, but I just know he's an Australian painter. But yeah, high key, right? Nothing is dark in this besides maybe a tiny bit in here, and that is not even near black. Great. Nice job. Oh boy, who wants to tackle this one? Renita, are you ready? And unfortunately, I do not know the name of this artist. If anybody knows, please tell me. It's a beautiful painting though. Renita, what do you think? And you're muted, unfortunately.
Mid.
Yeah, I would say mid, possibly even, yeah, this is a tough one. If you told me full value range, you'd be really close. It just doesn't have, white, and it probably doesn't have black. So it's like an expanded mid range is what I would say. You didn't use his darkest darks and you didn't use his lightest lights. This painting definitely has a feeling of atmosphere, but it's not, like the one we were just looking at. It's not, so hazy, but there is definitely a sense of kind of a moisture in the air and the light breaking through. You can definitely feel the underpainting in this, right? The warm underpainting that he's come back over and covered. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of this artist, but this is a painting that I look at a lot, and I probably have learned a lot about how when I do my very warm underpaintings and then come back in and cover them. This is one of the paintings I look to see how did this person layer up their cools over their warms. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, very nice.
Wonderful.
All right, this one I'm just going to go ahead and answer for you is pretty much a full value range. T. Allen Lawson is just blows my mind. This guy, he just makes beautiful, somewhat simplistic, kind of barren, just gorgeous scenes. Full value range here, right? The bright and the darks and everything in between, and just enough motion, right? You guys see that line as our eyes come up? Isn't that fun? But it's not in your face. It's not overly described. I had to grab that one. It doesn't really a great example of anything, but I just love that painting. All right, Renita. One more. Let's go. What do you think, George Shipperley here?
Oh dear.
What is it mostly?
It's high chroma, but
Yeah, it is pretty high chroma, isn't it?
yeah.
Even, even though
But
they're all
it's
brown down.
yeah, it's mid, I think.
Yeah, I would say so, with these, thin stripy tree lines being on the darker side. But yes, I would say this is a mid-value key painting. Definitely not high key, 'cause nothing in here is light, but he does have colors that are bright,
Yeah.
even though they're all fairly brown down. So I grabbed this one as an example of sometimes students will read bright colors like this patch of kind of flamey orange here as light. It especially happens with yellows, where we read yellows and warm colors as being light, but in fact, they're not light. They are just bright. So that's a tough one for a lot of people when they're beginning. This one's hopefully pretty obvious. All right, one more, Renita, and then I'll let you go. Maybe we can even ignore the bottom.
This is light.
Yeah, that's a high key, isn't it?
Yeah, high key.
Yeah, he does bring in a little bit of value contrast down here, but not much. Nothing is dark.
Yeah.
And doesn't that just feel so airy and beautiful? And David Grossman is just so good at minimalist paintings. Just great, really poetic minimalist paintings. He doesn't overly describe anything. Sometimes he gets, we'll see if we see some more of his. But anyways, nice job. You are right. Thanks, Renita. All right, Meryl, your turn. This is Russell Chatham, another Montana painter who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. I just die whenever I get to see any of his paintings. There's lodges in Montana that have them and stuff. And he was just so good at also kind of a minimalist painter in a way. He's considered a tonalist by many, but definitely simplified the landscapes. So what do you think, Meryl? What do you think is actually going on in this painting first?
Well, I read this as high key.
Yeah.
Even though there's earthy tones in there. Yeah, I think this is a high key painting, assuming I'm seeing the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a high, but it's actually a mid because nothing is as light as over here, right? So he's probably actually dropped off level 1 and 2, the two lightest values. And he definitely, so this is probably like level 3 through like level 5, maybe 6. If we were to hold up our value keys, it's very condensed value range. He's using a little bit of temperature, a little bit of color. And I just love the idea of, you see this mountain back here with the snow, and as it's just getting obliterated by the clouds or the whatever it is. And it just reads like kind of a snowstorm, or, snowy thing is just slowly moving in over those hills towards us. At least that's how I kind of see that. So I think you're right. It is on the higher key end, but he definitely didn't use his lightest lights. Right. If I was painting this, I would have probably been tempted to make my snow really, really white, like again, the white over here. But anyways, Russell Chatham. Let's see. All right, T. Allen Lawson again. At least that's what I have it marked as. Do you want to do one more, Meryl?
Sure. This, to me, this is mid with, I don't know, like I would say mid, again, ranging more towards the high key. I mean, obviously you have a little bit of clouds and some of those highlights, but even those are not all the way to the bright side. So I would say mid key.
Yeah, definitely. He doesn't have his darkest darks. He doesn't have his lightest lights. It's definitely on the mid key, and it's kind of more vibrant, color, at least in the grasses and in the sky. So it's kind of a high chroma. Very nice. Isn't this just, you see how he just kind of keeps things simplified. He looks to design. Yeah, it's like they could almost be considered somewhat boring, but gosh, I really like what he does. All right, John William Tristram, this guy, watercolorist. Maybe I should pick on Leslie. Are you here still?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, let's talk about some watercolors, shall we?
Okay.
All right, John William Tristram. I for some reason think he's an Australian painter, but I could be wrong. What do you think? What do we got here? High key, mid key, low key, or full key range?
I think it's high key to mid key. I mean, he does have black under his trees, right? Or dark, very dark color.
But not black, not even close to black, but
The
yeah.
sky is very light and the ground is very light, and everything is very muted.
Yeah, and you could almost say that he's using kind of a mother color too, right? Kind of a
Yep.
gray down blue with variations leaning towards green and slightly more yellowish of that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
you can
agree.
see I definitely a lot of my tastes lately are leaning towards minimalism in painting, and just trying to figure out how do people do that, because I've never been brave enough to just, oh, you know what? I don't want you to worry about this part on the right, so I just don't put it in. I don't want you to worry about my foreground here, so I just don't put it in. So I really respect when artists are kind of just, they almost use their surface as a framing device, right? Anyways, John William Tristram, one more of John William Tristram. And I think you're, let's hear what you say here. High key, mid key.
I would say the same. It's more high key, but what's really marvelous is his composition. I mean,
Yeah.
just he's got a vertical that's important, and then he's got this wonderful diagonal that's running
Yeah.
through the center with wonderful trunks. It's really an unusual kind of painting, and it's lovely.
Yeah, I really love this artist. Whenever I see his images pop up on Facebook or Pinterest or wherever, I'm always like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. That's so cool. I love how he's resolving things. And yeah, just this subtle lead in line, and then this kind of sharp angle turns us, follow that line, and up we go. And yeah, he's just got a nice sense of motion and movement. The trees have a bit of a dance to them, or even a bow. Nice stuff. Yeah, so he doesn't have his darkest darks, he doesn't have his lightest light, so it's more on the mid key. This is probably a little brighter than that one, quite a lot brighter, lighter. But again, still kind of keeps things muted with kind of a mother color of grayed down, whatever, greeny blues. Yeah, very nice. Thank
I
you.
really like that circle that he has in the trees there. The circle in
mouse
the
is not moving.
trees.
Oh, his
Right
branches,
here to the right, yeah,
In
his
here.
branches
right
are,
there.
Almost a bullseye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. And I almost all the paintings I ever see by this artist look like this, like a variation on this. So I don't know if these were his finished paintings or his studies, or I really don't know much about the artist, unfortunately. All right, Karen Hale, I'm gonna go to Michelle because I brought up the more abstracted landscape. What do you think, Michelle?
I mean, if I'm looking at the value on my paper, it almost reads high, but I don't think of it as a high. But I guess I'm gonna just, according to this paper, high leaning towards mid.
I would go the same with you. That's what I would say. You know, he's got a couple little slightly darker lines, but they're definitely not black. You know, just it's very abstracted. This is, yeah, Karen Hale. I think pastelist. You know, just really borderline abstracted image here. There's a lot of variation in color, but they're all very muted and all relate very well together. I again feel like this could be like Idaho or Montana when you're driving down the highway kind of along the different fields and you got different things going on, different things being planted. It just has a nice feel, and it feels kind of like in a car in motion driving by. And that's what I want you guys to see, that, you know, your paintings don't have to end up always really detailed and everything else. You know, it's up to you. That's a taste thing. But I want you to be aware that, you know, there's lots of variations on painting. Very nice. All right. Well, I've got you, Michelle. I've lost Michelle. She's on the phone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that great? So this one, I'm just going to go ahead and
Awesome.
say very much high key, right? Just nothing in it is dark. The darkest darks in the trees to keep us coming forward and give us a sense of depth. is really not dark at all. Lawrence Lee Magnuson. But right here it says Carlson. So maybe this is a different, I think this actually might be Emil Carlson. I'm just seeing the signature. I'm not sure why I grabbed that name. Maybe that was somebody that posted the picture and took credit. Emil Carlson, I believe. But yeah, really nice, really airy and light. And we'll just kind of skim through a couple more here. Michelle, here's another really, really soft edged one. Let's see if I zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I just grabbed this because this is quite popular these days. These really just kind of airy, soft edged, almost abstract. You see them, you know, being sold in furniture stores and things. It's kind of accent paintings. But there's definitely a nice kind of a dreamy, soft feeling to it, right? I'm going to say that this is a mid, for the most part, mid to darker. But well, Louise, whoever that is, boy or girl, has, or is that Lois? Has, you know, a little bit of a lighter area, but it's definitely not about that. Our eye stays here. And also kind of a nice mother color of the browns. Another kind of similar idea, definitely mid-key, right? No dark darks, no light lights. And definitely very much relating to the mother color of the kind of the grays. It's a darker green gray to a bluer, lighter gray down to a mid-value green gray. Another Brent Cotton, and I'm gonna pull out of here just so I don't waste too much. I wanna make sure I get some of the right ones here. So we got Brent Cotton, definitely a mid to dark, right? Even though this fire feels very light to us, it's actually not. If I was to turn this into a black and white painting, it looks light, but it's actually bright. And also all muted colors. The only high chroma colors are right here. That makes sense? So you can also use that as a way to lead the eye. And yeah, this is another George Shipperley. Again, just such nice poeticness. I very much see him like interior designers would just love this kind of work. You know, when adding color spots, you can just really see this in a lodge or somewhere. Beautiful, warm colors with playing off the cool grays. If we squint our eyes, there is nothing light in this. Or yeah, nothing in the high key value range. So it's definitely mid to dark. And what's my time here? 10:40. I'm going to quickly skim through them. And yeah, mid to dark, mid to dark. This is Kevin Corder, great artist. I have one of his paintings up on the wall above me here. Really great painter. I really like his work. Mid with little accents of darks, no light lights, very little dark dark, right in the middle. Bam, bam, kind of funny. But I love the that it's kind of a green mother color with, you know, even these reds are not fully red, maybe a little bit of bright colors in the house, but for the most part, everything is very related, lots of nice atmosphere. Love this painting. Anybody want to try to tell me what we're seeing here? Who's brave? High key, low key, mid key? All right, Karen, let's hear it.
I'm leaning towards low because even though it's a yellow, it's a really it's a saturated yellow.
Well, it's not, yeah, it's saturated, but it's even more on the ochre side, isn't it? So kind of a dirty yellow. All the colors in here are pretty dirty. Like the grays are dirty, the yellows are dirty, the reds are dirty. Everything leads kind of towards the brown down version of it, of that color. What about the key? You said you think this is a mid?
I said mid to low.
Yep, perfect. Nailed it. Yeah, this one's a tougher one because that, you know, the sun kind of blasting away at the field and the face of this tree, it kind of throws us. But isn't that just gorgeous framing and use of brushwork, lost edges, found edges? Just Michael Workman will do a good tight painting and then destroy it and then repaint back into parts of it. He wipes it away. He does all sorts of things. I've never watched him paint or taken classes, but I have friends who've studied with him and talk a lot about how he paints and then destroys and then paints and destroys until he gets just as much information as he feels he needs. This one popped back up. Another Russell Chatham, definitely on the high to mid key, right? He really loves that kind of snow moving in feel. You can almost feel like light, foggy snow. Kevin Corder again. I would say this one's pretty obviously a mid key. Anybody disagree with me on that? Yeah, isn't that beautiful? It tells so much and just really using very few values. Doesn't have any dark darks and doesn't have any, well, very little lighter lights. All right, very much a mid key with one highlight. Ovanis Barbarian, I grabbed this one because I wanted to talk about temperature, underlying mother color and temperatures, because I think oops, let me see if I can find them. Yeah, okay. So two variations on kind of the same theme, much more greens and a slightly darker lower key value versus more blues and pinks and a higher key. So I just wanted to grab those. Ovanis, if for those of you who are into more juicy, thick kind of Monet or Impressionist brushwork, Ovanis Barbarian is probably an artist you could look at and enjoy. Let's just grab one more artist here. And this is Nancy Bush. She does fairly minimalistic landscapes as well. And definitely great use of mother color in her paintings. They are very almost monochromatic, even though it's got greens and reds kind of bouncing off each other. They're not so separate that they are screaming, you know, they're really quite close. Squint your eyes at it and watch how the color separation almost vanishes and it becomes just kind of slightly temperature shifts and the values really stick together. So I like seeing that in paintings where you've got greens and reds next to each other, but it doesn't feel jarring. Renato, we talked about him last week. And
It's beautiful too.
yeah, so there's a lot of examples here. You know, very cool versions, very much in the blue green, purple reds, yellow browns, right?
Wow.
With some grays.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, this is another artist
Beautiful.
that kind of greatly influenced, maybe not what I paint, but what I would like to move towards. This guy I kind of almost think of as being Art Nouveau. Very designed, very kind of cleaned out, and very thoughtful design. And interesting too, because right, my instinct would be, well, I need something else over here to balance it. Because man, it feels like it should really lean and fall over to the left, but it doesn't for some reason, and really nice. And look at those values as they dark, you know, here's our darkest darks. And then it goes and recedes back into space as things get lighter, bluer, cooler, right? Isn't that beautiful? If anybody wants to use this as your reference for some painting, that would be great. Yeah, I think that's enough. I don't want to go too crazy. Renato with just very sepia based paintings. Very interesting design because all the interest is up here. So he's treated it like an abstract painting in a way where he's got the big space. Because I always say, right, if it's a sky painting, it's about the sky, then make, you know, it should be heavy on the sky. If it's a landscape, it should be about the landscape. But he's taken the most vague area and made it big. So all my rules are not rules. They're just guidelines and ideas. And when you know what you're doing, break them to good use. Very interesting design. Great.
Who was
All right.
that one?
That was Renato Mucillo. Meryl said it for me last week.
Mucillo.
Mucillo. All right. Yeah. Very cool. All right, guys. Any questions, thoughts about all of that? Feel free to go back and peruse through there. Look at them maybe as you're doing your homework. Yeah, anything else before I go ahead and stop the video and get up to the easel and yeah, Linda.
I have a question. I have a question about 4 or 5 paintings back, the kind of very muted with the reds and the greens underneath and reds on top. Do you think he did that with, or whomever did it like let it dry? That one, oh, that is really singing to me.
Yeah,
So
isn't that
I
gorgeous?
just
Yeah.
wonder, it is so gorgeous, but would he do this when like the first layer is dry or the second layer is dry, or
I would
would he do
probably
it-
think
do it all at
so.
once?
I can't be for sure, but I would kind of think that this had a warm underpainting. Typically, that's how I would do it. That's again, that's how I would personally do it. But I can't. Yeah.
This is Diane.
Hi, Diane.
I have studied with Nancy Bush, so I can kind of explain that.
Oh, please. Yeah, great.
So she paints the whole thing, like you said, with using a lot of mother color. And then she lets it dry, and then she does several glazing all over the whole thing with liquid and transparent color. So she probably has at least 2 or 3 layers of glazing on top of that.
I believe
Okay.
this is another one
That
of her.
is so beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful too.
Yeah, I haven't
gorgeous.
done that in this class, but if you've been in my classes before, I will often do kind of the earth red underpainting, and I'll probably maybe do something like that for my final painting. And then I love coming across it with the dirty earthy greens. I think there's just something magical about the burnt, warm, earthy colors with the cooler grayed down greens on top. Is that right, Diane? Kind of what she's doing there?
She uses transparent oxide red for her
Yeah.
underpainting.
Yep, that's what I
And
do.
then
too, yeah.
on top, she uses a lot of sometimes Indian yellow and also a schminky yellow green, which is a very beautiful transparent color. She uses that a lot. And
What was that color?
Schminky.
What was the color?
green,
Okay.
Transparent red oxide.
Okay.
Frankie?
You're talking about the yellow green. It's schminky. Yellow green.
I've never heard that word before. Shrinky?
No, schminky. It's the brand.
Brand?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
It's
Very
German.
cool. I believe she's out of Texas. Did you study with her in Texas?
Yes, in Fredericksburg. I've been down there several times. I also studied with Michael Workman.
Oh, lucky you. Wow.
Yeah, but Nancy is really, really nice and Michael is not.
This is recorded.
Uh-oh.
Not.
That's funny. Well, cool. I'm glad to hear she's nice. I've enjoyed looking at her work. So a lot of these artists that I picked are because they've inspired me, and they're artists that I go back to and look at for various reasons. And I think what is the saying that oh, I can't remember it. Shoot. But it's like anyways, good artists I can't remember it. But anyways, I really think that it's for developing our style, look to all the different artists. For me, I'm looking at Monet, even though I don't paint, as thick and juicy as he does. I'm looking to a number of these artists, and I'm grabbing elements and pieces of that I like. Just think of a musician trying to develop their style. You could be listening to jazz and rock and country and, favorite musicians from all those things. And so, these different elements, for me, it's, how Nancy, even though I'd never met her or talked to her or anything, but I could see that what I pictured was overlapping the cools over the warms. And I definitely incorporate that into a lot of my paintings. And all the different things that we looked at and learned, and then just about the value keys. So I think it's very important, just as Diane's doing. I would love to have you be my student forever and ever, and continue to take my class. But I think it's important to look to and learn from a number of various artists that you respect while taking my class constantly and forever. Just kidding. But it's just, and just like with me, you're not going to take everything that I do and everything that I say. You're going to take the parts of it that work for you, the parts of it that help you move you along towards whatever it is you're in vision. And you may not know that. I think that develops and evolves over time. But anyways, it's fun to look at all these artists and all their different styles and different techniques. And Diane, thank you for sharing that. And was I right about Michael Workman? He kind of paints and then destroys and then paints and destroys in a grumpy way.
The way he taught us was he made us do a grid and follow him along. It was like Bob Ross. And then we also did things from our own photos, and then he critiqued them, and he was pretty rough and people left in tears. So I have a hard time. He didn't destroy anything, no, in our class. And that might be more recent. That's been about 5 years since I took that class from him. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I may have made that whole thing up about him destroying stuff, but it really looks like it where he's losing edges and obliterating soft, stuff.
That's more new because Douglas Fryer is one who does that. And he's really, really fun to watch paint because he practically cleans things off and starts over in layers, and it's really, really cool to watch.
Yeah, I always enjoy artists that do that. I've got a friend who does stuff like that, and he'll literally just take his whole paper towel roll and not even take the paper towels off. He just takes the roll of paper towels and just runs it across his painting. And just all of a sudden he's just got all these crazy things going on, and then he just repaints parts of it, leaves some of that, or he takes his palette knife or his squeegee or whatever else. Kind of it's a daring and brave and interesting. And I've seen a lot of artists who will take their paper towel and kind of crumple it up, and then they just start whipping the canvas with their paper towel. And they just don't want it to all be tight and rendery and nothing's precious. And yeah, interesting ideas. Great. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. We're going to take another, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break again. I was going to say 10 minutes, but we're actually almost to 11 o'clock already. So 5-minute break. We'll be back here at 11. See you guys.